Hello and welcome to Story Time. And this week our theme is about getting dressed for that really cold winter weather that we're having right now. And our first book is called One Mitten. One mitten, yellow and bright, fits on my left hand. Do you know which hand is your left hand? Is it this one or this one?
This one.
It's this one. Can you wave at me with your left hand? Good job. Or my right. Wave with your right hand. Good job. One mitten can wave a mitten hello. One mitten can make a shadow show with shadow shapes of a mitten whale and a slow, slow mitten snail. One mitten is a hat for a rooster's head, or even a very small mitten bag bed. One mitten is a mitten flag. Hold still, Daisy, wag, Daisy, wag. One mitten gives my sleepy cat a kitten soft one mitten pat, and under the cat some yellow fuzz. My other mitten, so that's where it was. Two mittens can clap, flap mitten wings, make mitten ears. Lots of two mitten things. Two mittens windshield wipe the frosty glass. It's snowing outside, covering up the grass. Two mittens make binocular eyes. Two mittens wave mitten goodbyes. Then one mitten, yellow and bright, holds my friend's hand warm and tight. Two friends with mittens were ready to go, skipping mitten warm into the snow. And there are the two mittens. So what kind of things do you put on when you get dressed in the morning and get ready to go outside to play when it's really cold?
Snow pants.
Snow pants. What do you put on your feet?
Boots.
Boots.
And socks.
And socks to keep your feet warm. Well, Froggy gets dressed to go play outside. And this one is called Froggy Gets Dressed by Jonathan London. It was cold. Froggy woke up and looked out the window. Snow, snow, he sang. I want to play in the snow. Go back to sleep, Froggy, said his mother. Don't you know frogs are supposed to sleep all winter? Wake up when the snow melts. Frogs hibernate. No, no, cried Froggy. I'm awake, awake. I want to go out and play in the snow. So Froggy put on his socks, zoop, pulled on his boots, zup, put on his hat, zat, tied on his scarf, zwit, tugged on his mittens, zum, and flopped outside into the snow. Flop, flop, flop. Froggy, called his mother. What? Yelled Froggy. Did you forget to put something on? Froggy looked down. Oops, cried Froggy. I forgot to put on my pants. He flopped back inside. Flop, flop, flop. Tugged off his mittens, untied his scarf, took off his hat, pulled off his boots. He left his socks on and slipped his pants on. Zip. Then he pulled on his boots, zip, put on his hat, zat, tied on his scarf, zwit, tugged on his mittens, zum, and flopped back outside into the snow. Flop, flop, flop. Froggy! Called his mother. What? Yelled Froggy. Did you forget to put something on? Froggy looked down. Oops, he cried. I forgot to put on my shirt. And your coat, added his mother. He flopped back inside, flop, 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 tugged off his mittens, untied his scarf, took off his hat. He left his pants, boots, and socks on, and buttoned up his shirt. Zut, zut, zut. Then he snapped on his coat, snap, put on his hat, zat, tied on his scarf, zwit, tugged on his mittens, zum, and flopped back outside into the snow. Flop, flop, flop. Froggy! Called his mother. What? Yelled Froggy. Did you forget to put something on? Froggy looked down. He had on his mittens, he had on his scarf, he had on his coat, he had on his shirt, he had on his pants, he had on his boots, he had on his socks. He reached up. Yup, he had on his hat. What could be missing?
Snow pants.
Snow pants? We'll see. Your underwear! His mother laughed. Oops, cried Froggy, looking a little more red in the face than green. He flopped back inside, flop, 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 tugged off his mittens, untied his scarf, unsnapped his coat, unbuttoned his shirt, unzipped his pants, pulled off his boots, took off his socks, he left his hat on, and slipped on his long johns with a zap of elastic. Then he put one sock on, zoop, pulled on one boot, zup, tugged on one mitten, zum, started to tug on the other, and let it drop, and said, I'm too tired, and went back to sleep. Zzz. Good night, Froggy.
Yeah.
And our next story isn't about winter or getting dressed for winter. It is about a man named Martin Luther King Jr. And the title is A Place to Land. And next Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So that's why we are reading this one today. A Place to Land. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Speech That Inspired a Nation. And this is a non-fiction book, so it's a true story. Martin Luther King Jr. was once asked if the hardest part of preaching was knowing where to begin. No, he said, the hardest part is knowing where to end. It's terrible to be circling up there without a place to land. But on August 27th, the night before the 1963 March on Washington, the strong and steady voice of the Civil Rights Movement wasn't sure what to say or how to say it. So Martin did what great men do. He asked for guidance. Not from above, at least not at first. In the lobby of the Willard Hotel where Abraham Lincoln once stood, a meeting of the minds took place. You have to preach, said Reverend Ralph Abernathy. Most folks coming tomorrow are coming to hear you preach. Wyatt T. Walker agreed, but added, don't use the lines about I have a dream. You used it too many times already. Bayard Rustin, who organized the march, wanted to hear about jobs, jobs, and more jobs, not dreams or scriptures. Clarence Jones, one of Martin's speechwriters, yes, even Martin had speechwriters, suggested a marvelous metaphor, a fresh metaphor one had never heard before. A bad check. It meant the time had come for America to make good on her promise of equality and pay up, for her citizens of color had grown weary, frustrated, and angry for justice long overdue. Reverend Walter Fauntroy agreed. Whatever you do, he said, keep that in there. 2 hours, while these learned men raised their voices and pointed their fingers, Martin remained still. Part of Martin's greatness, he knew the importance of listening. It grew late. With a long night of writing still to come, Martin stood and excused himself. I am now going upstairs to my room to counsel with my lord, he said. I will see you tomorrow. His advisers fell silent, stunned, unsure if Martin would use any of their ideas in his speech until the next day. Until tomorrow, then, they mumbled and retreated off to bed. Upstairs alone in his suite, surrounded by rough drafts, he scribbled notes on yellow legal pads. Martin saw Rosa, Fanny Lou, Emmett, Medgar, the children of Birmingham, and so many others, their faces forever seared in his memory. Heroes all, chased by snarling police dogs, knocked off their feet by high-pressure water jets, arrested, beaten, shot, hung, shocked, and poked by kettle prods. Their homes, schools, and churches burned. Midnight. Writing, rewriting, rephrasing, rehearsing the lines out loud to an audience of four walls, changing the pacing, stretching the vowels, dividing words into syllables to create inner rhymes and alliterations. It was like poetry, said Andrew Young, the soft-spoken pastor who counseled Martin throughout the night. Words crossed out 3 or 4 times, searching for the perfect meaning and rhyme. 4 a.m. the handwritten speech finished, but not finished. Martin, exhausted, surrendered to sleep. Well, at the same time, up in Harlem, in New York City, on 125th Street, in Chicago and Philadelphia, Cleveland and Memphis, crowds cheered, friends and relatives climbing aboard chartered buses and trains, on foot and planes, singing, "We shall overcome." 8 a.m. Hoping for a peaceful day, the shining city on the Potomac awoke to armed soldiers patrolling Constitution Avenue, as if preparing for war against an invading army. Noon. Women in flowing white dresses, gentlemen in pressed white shirts and snazzy fedoras, carrying signs of protest, carrying signs of hope, walked past the reflecting pool, watching their reflections, silhouetted against the bluest of pearl blue skies. 2:30 p.m. Martin kept refining, painting with a preacher's fine brush, a slight shade of wisdom here, a darker shade of frustration there, the darkest shade of for whites only everywhere. Approaching 3:30 p.m. Introduced as the moral leader of our nation, Martin stood at the podium, ready to lead his people to the promised land. He removed the folded white sheet of paper from the pocket of his black suit, the speech typed and finished, but never finished, and placed it flat onto the lectern. Under the watchful marble eyes of the 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, Martin's rich baritone rang across the ages, gathering the glorious images of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, and wrapping them around in writings of Langston Hughes, the Bible, the spirituals he learned as a child. Adding a sentence for emphasis, replacing a word for clarity, changes made in the movement to match the mood of the moment. The speech was good, but the crowd applauded where it should. But Martin wanted more. He paused. He couldn't say why, but others knew. "Tell them about the dream, Martin." Mahala Jackson, Queen of Gospel, Martin's divine muse, who has inspired Martin as Martin inspired her, heard what was missing, the passion of a Sunday morning sermon. Again she shouted, "Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream." The Baptist preacher, son, grandson, great-grandson of Baptist preachers, carefully removed the script off to the side. Martin was done circling. The lecture was over. He was going to church, his place to land, and taking a congregation of 250,000 along for the ride. Four words spoken many times in Chicago, Detroit, Birmingham, and Albany, Georgia, but never as emotional as on this day. Never intended to be heard on this day, not even written down for this day, not even once. I have a dream. Words he risked for his life for, and spent time in jail for, to convince Black America and White America that walking arm in arm was the only way to save America. Martin's voice soared as sweetly as Mahala's, "From my country to 'tis of thee, to let freedom ring," concluding with the mighty crescendo, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." Through the crowd and from sea to shining sea, tears rolled down like a mighty stream, because of the vision of a world where love triumphs over hate, grabs hold of the heart and won't let go. This was the picture Martin painted. This was his gift, further proof of his greatness. But now was not time for congratulations. There was one more stop to make. 4 p.m. Whisked away to the White House, a house built by those enslaved to meet the 35th President, John F. Kennedy, who had been slow to embrace the Civil Rights Movement and tried to convince its leaders to cancel the march, now greeted those same men in the Oval Office, extending a handshake to all, but saving a special welcome for Martin. I have a dream. For some in the room, Kennedy's warm smile and handshake were bittersweet. 8 p.m. Returning to the Willard Hotel, where less than 24 hours earlier voices were raised and fingers were pointed, the wise men gathered once again, this time to celebrate and to reflect upon the day that was. "Leader, you swept today," Reverend Abernathy told Martin. "You preached today," John Lewis added. "You were smoking." Clarence Jones told Martin moments after the speech. The words were so hot they were burning off the page. They all knew more battles lay ahead, angry late-night meetings in hotel lobbies, frantic phone calls, tears and blood to be shed, fighting every inch across the bridge to make Martin's dream come true. And those battles continue to be fought. But that night brought optimism and laughter, for they all agreed. Martin stepped up to the lectern, and they stepped down the other side of history. And in the back is a note from the author about all the research, and a note from the artist, and other books you can read if you want to find out some more information about it. Alright, and our next story is an old classic, but it's a favorite, called The Mitten, written by Jan Brett. If you look carefully at the side pictures of Jan Brett's illustrations, she puts little hints and secrets in those panels to let you know what could be happening next in the story. There was once a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens from wool white as snow. At first his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. "If you drop one in the snow," she warned, "you'll never find it." But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you have your snow white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. A mole tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was warm and cozy and just the right size, so he decided to stay. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled, but when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be, but what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged too many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wiggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Ah, 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 ka-choo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw the white sheep in the distance. It was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw he still had his new mittens. And if you look how big and stretched out the one the animals were in compared to the one that was made to fit his hand. Okay, now we're going to do a little felt story. Okay, so we have 5 mittens. Should we count them? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there are 5 different colors. What color is this one?
Pink.
And this one?
White. Red. Orange. Purple.
And purple. Okay, so 5 warm mittens hanging on the line. The first one said, "We sure look fine." The second one said, "It sure is cold." The third one said, "I am getting old." The fourth one said, "I hear someone near." The fifth one said, "Soon we will be warm. There's nothing to fear." Then pluck went the mittens. Whoops. Pluck went the mittens off the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Put it in my hand. Thank you. And 5 little mittens were hanging no more. Alright, let's put our little mitten line back over here. And our last story for today is The 3 Little Kittens, and this one is by Jerry Pickney. 3 little kittens, they got new mittens, and they began to cheer. "Oh mother dear, may we go out to play?" "Put on your mittens, you sweet little kittens, and you may go out to play." "Meow, meow, meow. Yes, you may go out and play." 3 little kittens, they played and played. They spun and leapt and pounced. "Oh, mother dear, we sadly fear our mittens we have lost." "What? Lost your mittens, you careless kittens? Then you shall have no pie." "Meow, meow, the kittens cried, for they would have no pie. Let's find our Mittens, then said the kittens. Meow, meow, meow. Soon one little kitten had found her mittens. Purr, purr, purr. Then the second little kitten found his mittens. Purr, purr, purr. And the third little kitten found his mittens. Purr, purr, purr. Oh, mother dear, see here, our mittens we have found. What? Found your mittens, you darling kittens? Now you shall have some pie. Meow, 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 you shall have some pie. Purr, 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 purr. They soon ate up the pie. Oh, mother dear, look here. We fear we've made a mess. You silly kittens, you're wearing your mittens. Their mother began to sigh. Meow, meow, meow. They all began to sigh. The three little kittens, they washed their mittens and hung them out to dry. Oh, mother dear, see here, our mittens we have washed. What? Washed your mittens? My good little kittens. Meow, meow, meow. The three little kittens put on clean mittens, and they began to cheer. Oh, mother dear, may we go out to play? And there they go out again. And that is the end of story time for today. Make sure you're checking in at your library's website to look for Take and Make Pick updates and other digital programs. Thanks a lot. Bye.